Rick invited us to come in today to talk about microaggressions. Okay, we have several learning objectives with regards to our talk today, so things that we're hoping that you will get by the time we are done with our session today. So we are hoping that you will gain an enhanced awareness and understanding of what microaggression is. We're hoping to help you also better understand some of the negative impact of microaggressions in our community, Madison broadly, but we might be able to even bring in some information to talk about what is happening nationally as well. And then we hope that you will learn things or strategies that you might choose to incorporate in your daily life to help you become an ally as it relates to dealing with some of these issues within our community. That is left up to you, but we will share strategies that may be helpful in the event that you're moving in that direction.
There's 3 ways to categorize microaggressions. One is a microassault, and that's when conscious and intentional actions or slurs, such as racial epithets, are displayed, swastikas, for example. These are conscious and intentional, right? Micro insults, these are verbal or nonverbal communications that subtly, thank you, convey rudeness and insensitivity and demean a person's racial or ethnic heritage or identity. For example, what do you think from the video, the 3 examples they gave, would be a micro insult?
You speak what, good English? You speak very good English.
Yes, very, very good. And micro invalidation is communications that subtly exclude, negate, or nullify the thoughts, feelings, or experiential reality of a person of color. For instance, here the example is, again, someone being asked, an Asian American being asked, where are you from? And then said, well, I'm from California. And then the follow-up question is, no, where are you really from? The communication that is being, the communication or the hidden message is that this person is really not American. Right? Okay. So, in addition, to go into more detail, we have the types of microaggressions. No. Okay. So there are different types of microaggressions that are different themes. Oh, that'd be great. So certain themes, for example, with Asian Americans is that you're an alien in your own land. So if you're an American, but you're still seen as a perpetual foreigner. No matter how many generations your family has already been in the United States. Ascription of intelligence. So that is, for example, you assign intelligence to a person of color or a woman based on his or her race or gender. So this is the idea that, oh, women may not be as smart around math and science as men are, or certain races are more intelligent than others. Color blindness, the idea that a white person may not want to, does not want to or need to acknowledge race, right? This idea that, oh, I don't see color, right? But if you say I don't see color, you are erasing someone's identity and their experiential reality, right? Where they see color every day. Criminality or assumption of criminal status, so the idea of a person of color is seen as dangerous or likely to commit crime. There's this denial of, another theme is denial of individual racism, sexism, or heterosexism. So when a statement is made when bias is denied. So for example, there's an example statement is, I'm not a racist, I have several black friends. Okay. Another one is, if you were to say, a person of color says, I think I was followed in the store because I was black. And then you counter by saying, are you sure you were being followed in the store? I really can't believe that. And again, that's an example of a micro-invalidation, right? Because you're not validating that person's experience. There's also a theme of this myth of meritocracy. These are statements which assert that race or gender does not play a role in life successes. That, for example, faculty get to be where they are because they worked really hard, right? And so other examples include, oh, I believe the most qualified person should get the job. And that's not taking into account the factors of societal and institutional racism, for example. Another theme I would say is the pathologizing cultural values and communication styles. So this is the idea that the values and communication styles of one culture, and I would say in regards to this culture, white culture, is the idea that it is the ideal or normal. Oh, thank you. So, this is what I'm reading from, and has the different themes and examples and the message that is being communicated. Okay, so for example, there's a cultural norm to make eye contact when you're speaking with the other person. That is, we see that as normal, or that's the ideal of communication, or that's the norm, but that might not be so in another culture, and I think we need to be cognizant of that. I want to go through 3 more themes. One is second-class citizen. So this occurs when a target group member receives differential treatment from that power group. For example, being given preferential treatment as a consumer over a person of color. For example, faculty of color may be mistaken for a service worker. Okay, so you see them down the hall, and you're just like, oh, excuse me. They are not seen as faculty, but as maybe a person who works servicing the university. Okay, and what the message is being said actually is that people of color are servants to whites. They couldn't possibly occupy high status positions. Okay. Then there's sexist or heterosexist language, terms that exclude women or LGBT people. So this is the example where I think this is a very new thing, not new thing, but it's coming up in our culture. The idea of using pronouns that we think people should be using or referred to, rather than using the pronouns that they would like to be acknowledged as. So, for example, a transgender person, a transgender man may appear to be feminine, or their assigned birth might be female, but they might prefer to go as they or them as their pronouns, or he. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then there's traditional gender role prejudicing and stereotyping. So expectations of traditional roles or stereotypes are conveyed. So like, women do this, men do that. You're a girl, you can't be good at math. You know, and that's being the message that women are less capable than men in that area. Okay. And in terms of let's see, ways to overcome.
Can I just mention one thing? So we did not make copies of this slide because we are trying to save trees.
Yes.
But if any of you would like to have copies of this, we can certainly email it to Rick, who can then provide copies. Okay? And I'm seeing nods. Some people are saying yes. Okay. So we will be sure to get that to you.
Thank you.
So we have this. We're tasked with this. This goal of identifying microaggressions and identifying what the hidden message might be that you're saying to the other person, right? So the next question is, how does one respond to microaggressions? So Dr. Ward is passing out a sheet now, and in the previous sheet that I had given you, we can see overcoming microaggressions in the middle. And this is where, this is just a summary of what Dr. Seuss said in his video. So again, 1, learn from constant vigilance of our own biases and fears. Meaning being aware of our blind spots when it comes to these issues. Experiential reality is important in interacting with people who differ from us. So this is basically understanding a person's lived experience and understanding that that's their reality. So you don't question that reality, right? You validate. Another one is don't be defensive. If someone is confronting you about the microaggression, I think they're wanting to help you grow, right? And also wanting to honor their identity. And so in that moment, it's easy to be defensive because another reaction is, oh, one thing is, I didn't mean to offend you. It was a compliment. That's often something that occurs. Or that's the thing about microaggressions. Some of them are not meant to be an insult. They're unintentional. Or they might be meant to be a compliment. For example, in the video, when the Asian American student is told, wow, you have excellent English, right? Well, I sure darn hope so. I was born in America. I was born in the United States, right? And then we go to number 4, be open to discussing our own attitudes and biases and how they might hurt others. And last, be an ally. Stand personally against all forms of bias and discrimination. And ways to do that, I have listed on how to be an ally in 15 ways. I won't go through every one of them, but I hope you would take the time to review it. I think one important one is understanding that people of color are leading the way, and you want to affirm their capable leadership. So you wouldn't, as an ally, you don't assert yourself at the forefront. Does that make sense? So you step back. You give that space to them. And one is, as allies, we take responsibility for addressing these issues with other people in our community, right? So as, let's say, white individuals, the responsibility is on you to talk about it with other white people, rather than expecting people of color to educate all the time. So there's a common response. Oh, if you don't teach me, black person, how do I know about issues related to black people, right? So black people are burdened with having to educate, right? But that's not sustainable. There's not enough people of color to do that, to sustain that energy. Whereas, the majority right now are white people. So if white people can go out and talk to their own people about it, I think that's more sustainable.
And I would also add to that is, we also pay attention to the messenger. And so oftentimes people are more likely to listen to a messenger that might look like him or herself. And so that is another reason why being an ally is so important, because the folks that you're trying to reach that may look like you may be more open to listen to someone that look like self.
And the last two that I want to highlight is find support from fellow allies, right? And don't give up. Yeah.
And that don't give up piece is just so important, because as with anything in life, right, there's always a steep learning curve, right? When we try to do something for the first time, there will be bumps along the way. But what do? You kind of keep on going. As I like to say in my role as a psychologist, you put one foot ahead of the other, and then you just sort of continue stepping and continue walking. And so it's the same philosophy with this kind of work, right? That you just sort of keep on stepping, and at times it may be comfortable, at times it may be uncomfortable, and when it's uncomfortable, that's actually not a bad thing, right?
Yeah,
that means
exactly.
that you're stretching yourself, and you're hopefully stretching and challenging the folks that you're trying to work with to grow as well. So no, as we say in New York, it's all good.
Yeah. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone, right? So yeah, that's where I really want to end on in terms of this overview of how do we overcome microaggressions and why is it important, and how to be an ally, right? And I gave you a sheet that is coral/salmon in color, and it goes into more detail about the idea of why it's important to confront them, and how can you respond, different ways to respond to microaggressions, and also how the other person might be responding to it. So another one is, like I had said before, one can be defensive.